Chris Votey, Vanessa Lucier, Catherine McLean, Paul Elam, Warren Farrell, Mike Buchanan, Elizabeth Hobson, Cassie J., Ava Brighton, Allison Tiemann, Karen Strawn, Brian Martinez, Terrence Pop, Janice Fiamingo, Aaron Pizzi, Daniel Perrins, Kenneth Jovette, and Melissa Isaac. Now, I could spend this entire speech listing off names, and there are many great people in this movement that deserve mention. Instead, I will ask you this question. What do all of the names have in common? Most of them are active members in the men's movement, many of whom are key members and speaking at ICMI this year. But that doesn't describe everyone I mention. In fact, it would seem that there isn't any one thing they all have in common. But I assure you they do have at least one thing. In order to explain their commonality, I'm going to tell you a story about myself. In 2012, I suffered a work-related injury that left me permanently disabled. I suffer from post-concussion syndrome. Within a year, I had lost everything. My friends, my job, my apartment, my truck. I was forced to move back home. Everything I built up in my life was taken away. Prior to my injury, I had desired a good career and still had the hope that one day I could have a family and some measure of happiness. It really makes you wonder if you ever truly had anything, if it's taken away so easily. During that year, Anita Sarkeesian had her Kickstarter campaign. I was the leader of an MMO guild at the time, and so many of us despised what she represented. I came up with the brilliant idea of creating a counter-movement to feminism, some sort of equality for men. I feel that I have been red-pilled from a young age, and knew boys and men were being left behind in this world. I was never a feminist, so I felt I would be the perfect person to lead the charge. Imagine my surprise in 2013 when I learned that there was already a men's movement. Honest, I didn't know there was a men's human rights movement until 2013. Now, I started off with videos of Karen Strawn, which led me to the Honey Badgers. They introduced me to quite a lot as I tuned into their Thursday show. Listening to them, I desired to help out. However, because of my disability, I believed I had nothing to offer. That I could do nothing. I couldn't work, which meant I had no money. And doing my own videos with a production value of 0? What's the point? I accepted that I would only be a spectator in the men's movement, not an activist. Then one day, Brian Martinez announced that he had put up Good Guy Comic. I went to his website and I really loved what I saw, but I felt I could offer him more. In fact, I had a WordPress hosting account which I used for my writing career. So I reached out to Brian and offered to build a website for him for free. He may not realize it, and I don't know if I've ever properly thanked him, but he gave me something in return. It was the first time I believed that I could give more, that I could be more than I am. Or rather, I denied my true self, and he helped me unlock it. From there, I made YouTube videos, hosted a Gamergate meetup, hosted a Red Pill screening, co-created 2 calendars, wrote a book, and am currently working on a book series. All of that starting with the opportunity to utilize my skills for another man. Now, I don't mention these things as a means of bragging, although I am proud of what I've done and will continue to do for this movement. I tell you all of this that someone with a traumatic brain injury has done quite a bit for this movement, enough to earn the respect from many of the names I've mentioned, that if I did this with a damaged brain, what more could I have accomplished with a fully functional brain? By the end of this speech, I hope to inspire you to take my example and for you to go on to do great things. Let me ask you another question. What do feminists have that we don't? Now honestly think about this for a moment. What do they have that we don't? The answer I came up with is public relations. They have really good PR. And why not? Everyone loves a good underdog story. The poorly treated overcoming great odds becomes something amazing. And in spite of feminism controlling most of the world, they are really good at spinning the narrative that they still remain the underdog in the gender fight. And the big, evil, undefinable patriarchy still keeps them down and their fight continues to wage on, despite any amount of evidence we can present to the contrary. Their PR has the world wrapped around their little finger. Their PR tells us, for every oppressed there must be an oppressor. And none are greater as oppressors than men. Men who are taught not to fight back, to capitulate to the demands of women and call it masculinity. And to act out against that label for our own self-interest is cited as toxic masculinity. Most men fall in line because they don't know any better. We're up against the media, places of employment, the government, and culture at large. They all agree on the same thing, that to be on the right side of history means to cater to every feminist whim, that women over men need the most help. Even though males are being left behind, the propaganda machine is powerful. The problem of the men's movement is that we don't get the privilege of being seen as oppressed. Women get it automatically because as a culture, we want to believe absolutely that women are fragile and need our protection, while at the same time, they are strong-willed and can do anything. The mere mention of men's fragility is met with taunting, even by those who don't have a horse in the race. This means that in order to convince the world of the plight of men, we have to work that much harder. We have to do a lot more than just blink our eyes or cry crocodile tears. We need to go to the nth level, to the point that our actions speak for itself, that our actions can't simply be ignored or twisted around to make us look bad. In essence, we need to do more than just talk on YouTube or stand on street corners with signs. And let me say this right now. There is nothing wrong with either activity, as videos and protests are the lifeblood of this movement. It is the foundation in which we build. What I am saying, that with so much against us, we have to do much more to get the message out there. And the more of us that do that, the more likely we can convince our family, our neighbors, our co-workers, and even a random stranger that in order for there to be true equality, we need to pay attention to the needs of men. And if we can get people talking, then we can get information to the uninformed. When the uninformed learn about males being left behind, they themselves begin to talk, which is heard by those in a position of power, which lead the powerful to act in a way that keeps themselves in power by promising the people that which they desire, leading to actual change. At this point, you might be asking me, where am I going with all of this? What do all these people I mentioned have to do with feminist PR? Well, it goes back to my story. It's not that I did something for the movement. So many of us have done YouTube videos and engage in public protests. What I have in common with all of these individuals I named is that we all added a brick to the foundation of the men's movement. What do I mean by added a brick? All of these people have gone above and beyond for the movement, utilizing their skill set to do something unique to spread awareness of the movement. As I've mentioned, I created a website, I helped create calendars, I wrote a book. Each of these things were bricks I made. As I've said, the foundation of our movement is going on YouTube or hitting the pavement. Think of that like a concrete foundation you might have with a house. Unfortunately, as much as we wish it could, those things only really help those already in the movement, those to whom already taken the red pill. Now, I'm not suggesting that we stop doing them, and they are available for those considering taking the pill, but they do more to help people within the movement than on the outside. This means to get the message out there, as I said, we need to go above and beyond. And each time we do that, we make a brick. And what is a brick? Really, it's just a fancy manufactured rock. By itself is seemingly useless. However, when we make a brick, we put it on the foundation of the men's movement. Make a website, lay down a brick. Make a calendar, lay down a brick. Make a second calendar, another brick. Write a book, another brick. With the bricks laid down, eventually we make a wall. Then a second, third, and fourth wall. Add a top to it and we have a room. Several rooms make a house. Several houses make a neighborhood. Several neighborhoods make a city. And then several cities make a district. And many districts makes a country. A community that started with a few people making videos turns into a new world, brick by brick. Sounds like an exaggeration, but we're already starting to see changes in this world. Minute maybe, but change is change. And if you're having trouble seeing how bricks being laid down makes a difference, I recommend looking at India. The men's movement we see in India has done a lot of great work. They made a foundation out of support groups for men, and through that they began laying down bricks. They have holiday retreats, bonding exercises, legal help, and even an e-learning system to teach men to become better men and more prepared for the unforgiving world. This speech is a call to action. Yes, these big names I've mentioned have done great things, but this speech isn't for them. It is for all of you to get out there and help build this community. The most important thing we can do in this movement is to get the word out there. Our biggest challenge is that the common people, those not part of the conversation, are unaware that there's even a problem. Most people come into this movement when they are handed a hardship. I would very much like to help men avoid a hardship, but in order to do that, we need to get the message to them. How do I expect you to do that? How do I expect you to make bricks? Quite simple. With your skills and your hobbies. I myself have many different skill sets, but perhaps my greatest one is my writing ability. However, I didn't utilize it for the men's movement. Sure, I wrote articles for the Honey Badgers and A Voice for Men, but I refused for the longest time to write books. You see, it is my dream to become a great author, to be known for my craft, for people to want an audience with me to teach them how to write and become published. However, the writing world, especially the independent writing community, is very feminist. Most authors take on the mantle of feminism, whether male or female, as evident by the Sad Puppies incident for the Hugo Awards. Which meant, if I wanted to be taken serious as a writer, I couldn't let the writing world know of my involvement in the men's movement. In 2019, my good friend Elizabeth Hobson came to me and wondered if I had heard of the book How to Destroy a Woman Now. This was a book written by an unknown person with advice on how to use defamation, both libel and slander, to ruin men's lives. I was shocked that Amazon allowed this book on their website. And I'm not one for censorship. I firmly believe in freedom of speech, but freedom of speech does not protect against illegal activity, which this book did. It was Elizabeth who encouraged me to write a book as a protest against it. My book, How to Destroy a Woman Now, does contain immoral suggestions on how to hurt women, but it does not contain anything illegal. In fact, the last chapter explicitly says not to do anything written in this book and explains the protest against the first book. Thankfully, the first book is no longer available for purchase, and while I don't take credit for Amazon's taking it down, I do believe my book played a part in its removal. Miraculously, this book has been my most successful book to date. My only regret is that I didn't put my name on it, or rather I only put the name Mad Cat on it, as I still feared the feminist reprisal of my other works. In fact, I was afraid that Amazon would not only take down my book, but remove all of my books. What people don't realize is that I knowingly put my career as a writer on the line to raise awareness of misandry. The book is still actually up available for purchase. So this is an example of using your skills to help the men's movement, to make a brick to put on the foundation. However, in talking to other people, there is a disconnect in taking on the challenge of helping men. It's not from a lack of interest or desire. They want to do it, but for one reason or another have convinced themselves not to do it. The most common reasons I see are as follows. 1. They believe that their ideas are best done by the top echelon of the movement. 2. The only way they can help is if they have lots of money. And 3. They lack the confidence in themselves to be the one to do it. The first and third one go hand in hand with each other. Those that lack confidence tend to prefer someone else to do it and give away their ideas. However, I have seen some instances where someone has an idea but keeps it to themselves and rarely tells anyone else. The second one I see mostly when it comes to fundraising, but I also see it when it comes to trying to do their own project and they lack the capital. Starting with waiting for the top members to do it. The thing of it is, we can't wait for them to do it. Why? Well, they've already done so much already, and they have a full plate. They have their own projects to do. Now, they might be willing to support others doing side projects, but there is only so much they can do themselves. This means that when we come up with an idea to do something, we need to take charge and find a way to do it. If we have the ability to do it, then we should set ourselves to do it. Tying this into lack of confidence, so many think that to do anything in this lifetime, you have to be popular. You must have connections. You must already have followers willing to support you in whatever you do. Basically, you need to be popular to get anything done in this world. And without said popularity, you might as well not try. I know this feeling well, because it actually describes me so well. My current project is a book series titled Boys and Men's Issues, which will both be a fact book and a handbook. An interesting fact about this series is my idea to write it originated in 2013. For 7 years I've had this idea, and only this year have I tried to make it into a book series. It took me 7 years for 2 reasons. First, being my continued fear that if I do this, I won't ever be taken as a serious author. I will always be seen by the feminist-controlled writing community that I am a misogynist and no one will recognize me for the great writer that I am. Rest assured, I'm going to write this series in spite of how said community could eventually view me, because someone needs to put it out there. The second reason I never wrote it is because I never thought I should be the one to write it. In 2013, I thought I'd be a spectator of the movement. And honestly, who was I? I was a nobody. A book like this is so important that it should be written by Paul Elam, Warren Farrell, Karen Strawn. Because if they wrote it, then more people would buy it. It would be more accessible to the world than if some disabled nobody did it. And so, I kept it on the shelf to collect dust. When it comes to popularity and how we all wish we had it, I'm reminded of the movie Charlie Bartlett. Anton Yelchin's character Charlie is talking to Robert Downey Jr.'s character about how another character tried to commit suicide, and Charlie was indirectly responsible. RDJ asks Charlie, why does he do what he does? And Charlie states, I'm really happy here. For the first time, everybody likes me. RDJ then states, there are more important things. Charlie retorts, look, I know, everyone keeps saying that, but the thing is I'm a 17-year-old and popularity is pretty damn important. Again, RDJ says, there are more important things. And Charlie pleads, like what? And what RDJ says is important. Like what you do with that popularity. The unfortunate thing about popularity is that when we think about it, we tend to think on the grand scale. Most of us, in one form or another, are popular to someone, whether it is to family, to friends, a neighbor, a club, a meetup, or at work. There is someone who likes us being around, and that level of popularity can be a great starting point. Just because you don't have thousands of followers doesn't mean that you don't have any means to get information out there. Admittedly, I am more popular now than I was 7 years ago. And what I do with that popularity is continue to raise awareness the best way I can. But I'll tell you this, what I've learned in the last 7 years in being in this movement is that I am the exact person to write Boys and Men's Issues Handbook and Fact Book, and I should have written it all those years ago. Certainly, I know more about the movement now than I did back then, and perhaps the 2020s is the best time for this book to come out. But just because I wasn't a big name doesn't mean that I shouldn't do something. Even if it would have taken me years to write it, this wasn't a job for any of the other names I mentioned. This was a job for me, and I let my fear and insecurity dictate to me what I could and could not do. All of us have it within ourselves to move this world a step closer to a truly egalitarian society. Those names that I mentioned at the beginning of my speech have all done something wonderful. They have gone beyond videos and protests. They have done books and speeches, hosted conferences, done documentary, and set up support groups. But there's so much more that can be done, and it shouldn't just be the names I mentioned to do them all. Rather, it is the rest of us that needs to take our skills and abilities and put them to good use for the betterment of mankind. I am reminded of the Hobbit films. I didn't really enjoy them myself, but one part really stuck out for me. It was when Galadriel asked Gandalf, why the halfling? Gandalf quoted Saruman, who believed that only great power can hold evil in check. But his perspective was that it was the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folks that keeps darkness at bay. The acts of kindness and love. And it is Bilbo Baggins who gives a scared wizard courage. I am a hobbit. And if you're watching this, you're a hobbit. We are Bilbo, Frodo, Merry, Pippin, and Samwise. 5 hobbits changed the course of history for Middle-earth. 5 individuals that could be easily overlooked by those in power, and yet without them, great evil would have won. We are the overlooked in the eyes of the gynocentric world, and it is our small, everyday deeds that will overturn the world to have more empathy for men. I don't have to be someone great to do great things. I just have to be a hobbit. Of course, many of us want notoriety for what we do. We want the attention. I certainly do. Being a hobbit who does small actions to change the world doesn't seem like a good way to get notoriety, to be in the limelight. Don't be ashamed to feel this way, but don't dismiss being a hobbit either. Every action done as a hobbit makes a brick, and every brick counts towards the goal of empathy for men. So emerge from the Shire and tell this gynocentric world that we have more to offer. We can change the world for the better. So far, we've talked about building a city out of bricks. We've talked about lack of confidence and how we each have our own popularity. We have also discussed how we shouldn't rely on the big names and being a hobbit going out into the world to get done what needs to be done. Bringing all of this together, the question becomes, how do we, as hobbits, go out there and make bricks for the foundation? As I've mentioned before, it is through our skills and our hobbies. It is in how we help one another. All of us have some skill that we use either to have fun or make money. Believe it or not, but those skills can be used to help men and boys. Now make a list of all your skills and get creative with what your skills are. Ride a bike, cooking food, making a website. And certainly not all your skills can directly help others, at least not at first glance, but you would be amazed on how many of those can be used to help others. In preparation for this speech, I told a friend about what I was going to talk about. She had told me that my topic had given her inspiration. She is a nurse and has long considered working at the VA. For those who don't know, the VA is a medical service for veterans. Since most veterans are males, those would be predominantly who she would be helping. Many of the people who go to the VA suffer from traumatic brain injury and PTSD. However, she was informed that it can be dangerous to work there around people with brain injury and PTSD. However, she felt inspired by my topic of this speech that she decided to apply to the VA. Of all the things she does to help men, this might well be her biggest contribution. I knew how to make a website, so I made one to help out a fellow man who wanted to raise awareness for men. I am a writer, and I wrote a book to help raise awareness for men. I took my skills and found a way to help the movement. The only thing that holds me back now is that I have so many ideas that I cannot possibly do them all, even if I had a functional brain. I will share with you some of my ideas of things I'd like to see done in this movement. Starting off, we need more books. There are a lot of authors already who are writing some tremendously great books, but we need more. Books are a very powerful thing, and believe it or not, but it's quite easy to get published. We also need editors and beta readers. Finding movement-friendly readers or editors is quite difficult. Also, writers are in need of book covers. So any artists out there that can help out with a book cover, we need you. Terrence Popp has shown us that our movement needs more humor, something feminism lacks. Being able to laugh at ourselves or use humor to create awareness can be very effective. Someone could make a comedy video or even a sketch show, having a group of people get together in someone's garage and be goofy. On that note, making a video doesn't need to be a comedy. It could be a drama. It might be low production, but if you're clever enough, you can make every dollar count. And just remember all the movies with a low budget that became great successes. Documentaries. We need more documentaries out there. Now, yes, documentaries are expensive to make. So, in making more documentaries, we might need to consider doing it on a smaller scale first in order to build up to some larger ones. Do local meetups. Now, there are a lot of local meetups throughout the world for men's rights, but I feel that there is room to do more. To not just do one for every country or one for every state, but one for every city. Run a blog. Blogging is just as important as writing books because it gets the information out there. And maybe you have an alternate viewpoint or an alternate interpretation of events that happened, and you should get your word out there. And if you don't want to do your own blog, check out some of the blogs that are out there now and ask to contribute an article. Are you a graphic artist? Make art. Or perhaps you're a digital artist. Make an animation or a webcomic. Get a writer to do the dialogue. Utilize your artistic talents. Become an admin for a website. Help moderate a Facebook group. Add content to the site or group to give people a reason to come back and visit. Set up events either online or in your town. Find a way to get people together. If there's a men's related event in your area where people from outside your area are traveling to, offer a room if you have it. Sometimes it's the hotel cost that keeps us from going to events. And if you do stay in a men's movement Airbnb, be sure to respect your hosts. Maybe you are in customer support for computers or some other consumer good. Offer unofficial support to those having issues. Are you good at programming? Make some apps for a cell phone or write some programs for a computer. Got some clerical skills? Often help someone with their books or be an online assistant. Help manage someone's life so they can get more done. You can also help out with research. Heck, that's something I really need. I have over 6,000 reference materials to comb through to write my series. And it's a lot of work for one man to do alone. Donate time to help the homeless. You can do drives, collect cans, collect socks, collect blankets, what have you, but do something to help the homeless. You can also volunteer to go feed them. They always need volunteers. And remember that 80% of the homeless are men. And my last idea, are you good with the camera? Take some photos for use in the men's movement. And they can actually help with writing too, because good photos can make good book covers. Now, these are just a few ideas I came up with. These are all brick-making ideas that if we do them, we can really help the movement out, and our actions can help make the world a better place. These are the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folks that Gandalf spoke of that can keep the feminists at bay, because they'd rather you put your focus on only helping women or doing nothing at all. These small things will have a profound impact to those of us in the movement, as it can help those of us in need to help spread the message. Using our skills to support each other and raise awareness is how we become a stronger community, how we take our activism to the nth level, and not even feminism or the world at large can achieve, because their priorities are misaligned with their rhetoric. That they're more interested in playing Queen of the Hill than actually offering any support. One thing I didn't mention that we can all do is to find someone out there unaware of what it is that we do and talk to them about it. As I mentioned, we are popular to someone. In fact, whenever I meet new people, whether on Facebook or in person, most of the time I tell them who and what I am, so they later don't feel I somehow tricked them. I use my best judgment on who to tell, as some won't understand. And it's not that I try to convert them to my side. I just talk to them about who I am. And they often ask questions and are quite shocked by how bad things actually are. I suggest all of us do this to some level. Use what popularity you have in your current circle or when meeting someone new. That we tell them what the men's movement is all about. If 10,000 of us can get one person to take the red pill, then we become 20,000 strong. Now I understand for many that's easier said than done, and for the most part you have to keep that under wraps, as being a men's right advocate is still a dirty thing to so many, and an ignorant person can destroy your life as a result. I urge you to be careful, but encourage you to explore the people around you to see who you can bring awareness to. Now, my ears are burning right now. I hear so many of you wanting to ask me, what if I don't have a skill that can be used to help anyone? Not unlike me years ago, where I felt I had nothing to offer. And in my years, I found myself doing things I often had to figure out day by day how to do things to get anything done, such as doing the calendars. The lovely ladies of Men's Issues Calendar came when I felt that I wasn't getting the traction I desired doing videos on YouTube. The calendars came about with a conversation with Modern Medusa. We both desired to do something unique. The only thing is, we had no clue how to do it. That didn't stop us though. And every day we just learned by trial and error until we got it all together for the printing of the calendars. Believe it or not, printing was the easy part. The rest is best said as the toughest things I have ever done. I had to teach myself photo editing, fundraising, marketing, how to use Indiegogo, and it put my leadership skills to the test. Doing a calendar is a lot of hard work, and there is a lot of overhead. I did have partners helping me out, but we also had lives to lead, videos to do, and other projects. Fortunately, the second time around was easier as we knew what needed to be done, but it was still a lot of hard work. Having done the calendars, I learned many great skills. If you're faced with lacking skills or knowledge, we live in the greatest time in history where we can use the internet to easily look up resources to help us find out what to do. You'd be amazed at what you can do if you allow yourself to learn through failure via trial and error and keep at it until you accomplish your goal. Now, I understand that no one ever sets out to fail, and the prospect of failing makes a task undesirable. But if you never know failure, how can you know success? I am coming close to the end of my speech, and I hope that you have gained inspiration from it. In summary, I started out this movement lacking the esteem to believe I could contribute, and thanks to a friend, I had the opportunity to offer something to someone to help them spread the word. This action has led me to do some amazing things, has led me to lay down bricks with the other great names I mentioned at the beginning of this speech, to help build this movement. All of you have something you can offer the world, something to offer men. We need you. We need all of you. Feminists gets by easy because they can abuse people's perception of the importance of protecting women and feed into people's fears of what it means to be a man. We need to circumvent feminism, circumvent media, circumvent culture. We need to go out there and do the ordinary things to help each other out. We need to be hobbits, and for our actions to speak for themselves so it can spread to those unaware. That together our efforts are so great that nothing the hateful mob says is taken as fact. I call on all of you to take this movement to the next level, and the one after that, all the way up to the nth level. A level that can only be achieved by people who actually have empathy and not a desire to rule through fear and victimhood. Thank you.